Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
It is out of this silence that the Word which creates the worlds forever proceeds, for the Word expresses that which is self-hidden in the silence. Please continue watching to hear more wisdom from Sri Aurobindo, vegetarian.
9 billion people, which is what we are going to be by 2050, can't eat hundreds of billions of animals. There is no way this planet can sustain it. Jane Velez Mitchell, vegan.
Joyful viewers, kya haal hai? That's how the hospitable Indian people say, "How are you?" to welcome their visitors in Hindi. I am Rahul. The graceful people of India pay great respect to you who practice compassion and benevolence. May heaven reward you abundantly. India is the home of many great spiritual masters who have brought wisdom and truth to earth, inspiring us to seek a higher purpose in life, thus uplifting humanity to a divine state of being. One such great figure is the spiritual master, yogi, philosopher, poet, and politician, Sri Aurobindo, who graced our planet from 1872 to 1950. Sri Aurobindo's time as a politician was dedicated to achieving India's independence. However, after inner reflection, Sri Aurobindo retired from politics and service to his country. His aspirations turned instead toward the liberation of all humanity. Sri Aurobindo traveled to Pondicherry on the southeastern coast of India, where he retreated into the practice of silent yoga. Through the inner knowledge revealed to him during his spiritual practice, Sri Aurobindo began publishing writings full of wisdom. Today we present to you Chapter 1 of Book 1, Omnipresent Reality and the Universe, in the Life Divine. Originally written by Sri Aurobindo between 1914 and 1919, The Life Divine describes the spiritual journey that unfolds as a person sincerely seeks the highest truth. Such a journey leads to the soul's awakening and the direct experience of divinity. Chapter 4, Reality Omnipresent. If one knows him as Brahman, the non-being, he becomes merely the non-existent. If one knows that Brahman is, then is he known as the real in existence. Taittiriya Upanishad. Since, then, we admit both the claim of the pure spirit to manifest in us its absolute freedom and the claim of universal matter to be the mold and condition of our manifestation, we have to find a truth that can entirely reconcile these antagonists and can give to both their due portion in life and their due justification in thought, amersing neither of its rights, denying in neither the sovereign truth from which even its errors, even the exclusiveness of its exaggerations, draw so constant a strength. For whatever there is an extreme statement that makes such a powerful appeal to the human mind, we may be sure that we are standing in the presence of no mere error, superstition, or hallucination, but of some sovereign fact disguised which demands our fealty and will avenge itself if denied or excluded. Herein lies the difficulty of a satisfying solution and the source of that lack of finality which pursues all mere compromises between spirit and matter. A compromise is a bargain, a transaction of interests between two conflicting powers, It is not a true reconciliation. True reconciliation proceeds always by a mutual comprehension leading to some sort of intimate oneness. It is therefore through the utmost possible unification of spirit and matter that we shall best arrive at their reconciling truth. And so, at some strongest foundation for a reconciling practice in the inner life of the individual and his outer existence. We have found already in the cosmic consciousness a meeting place where matter becomes real to spirit, spirit becomes real to matter. For in the cosmic consciousness, mind and life are intermediaries and no longer, as they seem in the ordinary egoistic mentality, agents of separation, fomenters of an artificial quarrel between the positive and negative principles of the same unknowable reality. Attaining to the cosmic consciousness mind, illuminated by a knowledge that perceives at once the truth of unity and the truth of multiplicity and seizes on the formulae of their interaction, finds its own discourse at once explained and reconciled by the divine harmony. Satisfied, it consents to become the agent of that supreme union between God and life towards which we tend. Matter reveals itself to the realizing thought and to the subtilized senses as the figure and body of spirit. Spirit in its self-formative extension. Spirit reveals itself through the same consenting agents as the soul, the truth, the essence of matter. Both admit and confess each other as divine, real, and essentially one. Mind and life are disclosed in that illumination as at once figures and instruments of the Supreme Conscious Being, by which it extends and houses itself in material form, and in that form unveils itself to its multiple centers of consciousness. Mind attains its self-fulfillment when it becomes a pure mirror of the truth of being, which expresses itself in the symbols of the universe. Life when it consciously lends its energies to the perfect self-figuration of the divine in ever new forms and activities of the universal existence. In the light of this conception, we can perceive the possibility of a divine life for man in the world, which will at once justify science by disclosing a living sense and intelligible aim for the cosmic and the terrestrial evolution, and realize by the transfiguration of the human soul into the divine the great ideal dream of all high religions. But what then of that silent self, inactive, pure, self-existent, self-enjoying, which presented itself to us as the abiding justification of the ascetic? Here also harmony and not irreconcilable opposition must be the illuminative truth. The silent and the active Brahman are not different, opposite and irreconcilable entities, the one denying, the other affirming a cosmic illusion. They are one Brahman in two aspects, positive and negative, and each is necessary to the other. It is out of this silence that the word which creates the worlds forever proceeds, for the word expresses that which is self-hidden in the silence. It is an eternal passivity which makes possible the perfect freedom and omnipotence of an eternal divine activity in innumerable cosmic systems. For the becomings of that activity derive their energies and their illimitable potency of variation and harmony from the impartial support of the immutable being, its consent to this infinite fecundity of its own dynamic nature. Man too becomes perfect only when he has found within himself that absolute calm and passivity of the Brahman, and supports by it with the same divine tolerance and the same divine bliss, a free and inexhaustible activity. Those who have thus possessed the calm within can perceive, always welling out from its silence, the perennial supply of the energies that work in the universe. It is not therefore the truth of the silence to say that it is in its nature a rejection of the cosmic activity. The apparent incompatibility of the two states is an error of the limited mind, which, accustomed to transient oppositions of affirmation and denial and passing suddenly from one pole to the other, is unable to conceive of a comprehensive consciousness vast and strong enough to include both in a simultaneous embrace. The silence does not reject the world, it sustains it. Or rather, it supports with equal impartiality the activity and the withdrawal from the activity, and approves also the reconciliation by which the soul remains free and still even while it lends itself to all action. But still, there is the absolute withdrawal, there is the non-being. Out of the non-being, says the ancient scripture, being appeared. Then into the non-being it must surely sink again. If the infinite indiscriminate existence permits all possibilities of discrimination and multiple realizations, does not the non-being at least, as primal state and sole constant reality, negate and reject all possibility of a real universe? The nihil of certain Buddhist schools would then be the true ascetic solution. The self, like the ego, would be only an ideative formation by an illusory phenomenal consciousness. But again, we find that we are being misled by words, deceived by the transient oppositions of our limited mentality, with its fond reliance on verbal distinctions, as if they perfectly represented ultimate truths, and its rendering of our supra-mental experiences in the sense of those intolerant distinctions. Non-being is only a word. When we examine the fact it represents, we can no longer be sure that absolute non-existence has any better chance than the infinite self of being, more than an ideative formation of the mind. We really mean by this nothing, something beyond the last term, to which we can reduce our purest conception and our most abstract or subtle experience of actual being, as we know or conceive it while in this universe. This nothing then is merely a something beyond positive conception. We erect a fiction of nothingness in order to overpass, by the method of total exclusion, all that we can know and consciously are. Actually, when we examine closely the nihil of certain philosophies, we begin to perceive that it is a zero, which is all, or an indefinable infinite, which appears to the mind a blank, because the mind grasps only finite constructions, but is, in fact, the only true existence. For more information, please visit Sri Aurobindo ashram.org.
No to vegan? Hear the devil's calling yet? Soon you will.
Wonderful viewers, it's been a pleasure to have you with us today for Words of Wisdom. Please join us again tomorrow for part 2 of this program. Coming up next is 3D printing, an affordable and sustainable housing solution, part 2 of 2, right after noteworthy news. May God's immense blessings uplift your lives with hope and inspiration.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/WOW.
I nostri programmi sono offerti in molte lingue. Consultate suprememastertv.com/schedule e suprememastertv.com/WOW